Hello, everyone. Welcome to Mondays with Miami Freedom Project. My name is Ana Sofia Pelais. I'm the co-founder, executive director of Miami Freedom Project. And this is a show where we bring together people who are doing interesting, impactful work in Miami. And we just have a conversation about what brought them to that work, what that work looks like, and just what their connection is to this city that we all love because of itself, in spite of itself, depending on when you ask. I'm here with Vivian Azalia, who does incredible work both with Dream Defenders, and I want to talk to you about how you came into that space, and Colors of Azalia, which is one of my favorite. If you're not, I think it's one of the most Miami brands out there because it's like, I think we're used to seeing a commodification of Miami, but it's always a Miami we don't recognize. But whenever I see your work, it just kind of gets you right in the heart. There's like a direct line between your work and the pieces you create and the Miami, I think, that lives inside of all of us. So I'm excited to talk to you about all things Vivian and Miami.
Yeah.
So welcome. Thank you for being here. All right. And I also did not prepare Vivian for absolutely anything in this conversation because
surprise. No, this is great.
We have an ongoing Instagram conversation about dogs, plants, everything that's happening. And then I was like, oh, can you please come on Monday? So thank you for being so open. So Vivian, I feel like to me it's always whenever we come into this space with people that I feel like you have all these intersections in Miami where you come across people who are, because of your work, because of your interests, because of your likes, because of your family, your friends. But this is the first, sometimes it's like I ask, kind of go really deep into background in ways that I haven't before. So I guess my first question is, when were you born and raised in Miami? When did you, what's the beginning of your Miami story?
Yeah, born and raised in Miami, born actually right here, Jackson North, or Jackson downtown, whichever Jackson this is. And raised on the beach.
Okay, what part of the beach?
North Beach.
Oh, I love North
Beach. Raised on the beach my whole life, but went to school because of just what my parents' values were. I went to school in Opelika, North Miami. So I had like two versions of Miami growing up. I went to North Dade and CML right there by Bunch Park, and then I went to North Miami Senior High.
Nice. And how would you define those values? Like, what experience did they want you to have that you didn't have? what were those two experiences?
Yeah, I think for them really, so they had attempted to put my sister at Booth K. Broad in Bal Harbor, and they quickly realized like people are gonna judge you based off of income, based off of name brand, based off of what you have and don't have. And there was not a mix of culture there. They were like, this isn't the experience we want our both, because they ended up transferring me and my sister. I never had the Ruth K. Broad experience. And they were like, we want to put you in a school that's going to have Latino, Black people, Asian people, white people, everything. So then they decided on CML. And then Bunch Park was more, it was Latino, Black, and Asian. And then North Miami was more Caribbean and Latino. The experience around just like the culture, getting exposed to that, like not just being in this like bubble of.
Yeah, and where were your parents? Did your parents come here from? You're Peruvian.
Yeah, so both my parents are Peruvian. My mom was born in La Roya, which is like mountainous, and it's like in a valley. And my dad was born in Lima. They both came in the early 90s with my sister. My sister was born over there, and they came because of just like the war that was happening over there. I can't think of the name right now, but it was just like a war that had been impacting them for a couple of years, and just everything that had been happening with Alan Garcia and Fujimori. So then it started getting to a point where you would walk down the street, things were getting bombed, little explosions here and there, and it started becoming my family always compares it to the book in Cuba, where you have to check off like the rationing, like you only get a certain amount of milk, you only get a certain amount of baby formula, all the things. And my family was like, we are gathering our neighbors to do all this work to just get one enough formula for one daughter. Like we don't want to keep living in this.
Yeah.
And then they came over here. My grandmother was already over here though. My grandmother actually was like
interesting. So
your
grandmother was the first one to. And did they come thinking they were moving into a new chapter, or did they come thinking it was a temporary
I don't.
solution?
I think
or
they wanted. I think they just wanted something better for my sister's name is Andrea. I call her Dre. I think they just wanted something better for Dre at the time because she was little. She was only a year old, and to be raising a kid in that, it's like you know walking down the down the street in a stroller, and then you don't know what's about to happen. I think they were just like, we want a better life. You know, my dad was probably like, your mom's already over there. It's it's not gonna be too unfamiliar to us. Let's try it. And then when I was born in '93, my grandfather was like, well, I can't not meet my latest granddaughter. So then he ended up being the last one to come over.
Were you your grandfather's favorite after that?
I don't know if I was his favorite. It's three of us. It's me, Dre, and Barbie. Barbie's my cousin in Chicago. She's actually super into social justice world as well. But we were just like the three. That was like the three of us and him. He didn't work when he came here to this country, my grandfather. So we were always spending time with him, being taking care of him.
I asked that because my grandparents, when they left Cuba, they lived in Sunnyside, Queens. And when I was born, and I was my grandfather's favorite.
No.
I was the...
I mean, I could, maybe, but my sister would get mad if I say that on camera.
So when you were growing up, did you have... So you were born and raised here. Did you feel any kind of... I mean, and your sister was so young, so it's not like she had a workable memory of having lived in Peru. Did you have any sense of your family having a different experience, just from you just being... Did you ever feel that they had a different language or a different understanding that was maybe different from what you were hearing or feeling?
I think for me it probably set. So my father passed away in 4th grade.
I'm sorry.
And I think thank you. I think for me it more set in middle school, like reflecting more on like just my experience with him. Predominantly only spoke Spanish, but was like the most brilliant person in math. Me and my sisters still make fun of that to this day, that like we've always felt like we've had to be the best in math because of him, and because of just how he treated us and taught us when we were younger. That I'm just like, just because you speak one language, you can't get a job here in America. Like that was, and it was crazy to me because he passed away with no job, and it was like, but you were so smart, and you were like an economist in Peru, and had done so many things with finance and business and math. So it was always like, damn, like, well, if you speak English, you're, good here. And then I quickly learned that's not the case. But yeah, I think for me also like a vivid memories also when they had to do their citizenship. We're with the little flags. I'm like, does everybody have to do this? What's up with this? This is kind of weird. And we were like I think we were in the Miami Beach Convention Center, but it was like hundreds of families. We're all like sitting. All the people that are not getting it are like sitting. I'm like by myself because my 3 people are getting it. I'm just like with my flag. Like, what is
you?
I don't know.
I love that you're like, those are my 3 people.
Those are my 3 people. I mean, if he was still alive, maybe 1st, 2nd grade. Yeah.
Is that one of your earliest memories then?
Of like what immigration looks like in this country?
Or having like your own memory of something. Like there's, like I think like when you're 5 or 6, that's the first time that there's a memory that you can kind of keep.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe it might be one of my earliest memories, because I think they say because I was too young. We went to Peru when we were younger. I don't really remember that. So yeah, I definitely remember them doing the little test of us having the thing. I remember my dad taking me in 2nd grade to school so I could get gifted, AKA I was a hyper kid. And a gabber. They were like, you talk too much. You need to go into another class. But yeah, and he didn't know English. And they, had teachers over there talking to him in Spanish. But yeah, the citizenship test, that was like this is different. Does everybody have to do this?
It's interesting because the reason I asked that is also one of my first memories is Mariel, because I remember my mother volunteered. My mother came in the 60s, so she was going to help people who were coming in with their paperwork. But that's one of my earliest memories, and it is that process. Like, born here, it's not as though I didn't immigrate, but you have that experience of being from a family of immigrants that you're in some kind of... My earliest memories are barbed wire and tables and, this kind of almost official apparatus of how people are coming in.
Allowed to come. Yeah.
Or being allowed to come in.
Yeah.
That's incredible. And I think it's so moving what you say about your father's struggle with language, because it's not an indicator of capacity or intelligence. It's just, it's an ear. You're born with it. Like, my mother will always have a strong accent. She's gonna have a stronger accent than everybody she came with. It has nothing to do with, but it's just not indicative of anything else. And yet, even in Miami, I think we lose sight of what a challenge it is, or what a struggle it can be for people who are just like, it's like, you have to play the piano here. And it's, you're like, if you can't play the piano, you can't play the piano. Like, it's just not. And yet so many people, that becomes this kind of, a way of them not being able to fully just integrate.
I struggled with that so much when I was a teacher. I had so many kids, especially in Liberty City, telling me, like, I would talk to them in Spanish. I was teaching third and fourth, and they would be like, I've been here for 6 months. I came here in a suitcase. I've been here for a year. And little second and, third and fourth graders. And I'm like, and then I have, kids that speak full English telling them, screaming at them, pleading, speak English. I'm like, yo, just like, they literally can't. Like, you getting louder is not gonna, and that goes the same for adults. Like, when people are like, people need to speak English, I'm like, they change their whole life, usually around the time of 20 to 30. So their whole upbringing has been in a completely different world. And now you want them to not only assimilate, but also learn a whole brand new language. Like, they've done a lot more changing than people in this country that have been here. Like, especially like, gringos, they're, oh, you gotta learn English. No, bro, like, give them some time. And if they never learn English, then so be it too,
Yeah, I mean, I think it is so interesting. Because I worked in a school in Liberty City through a group, a nonprofit that I was working with at the time. And there was this one little girl who spoke Spanish, and the other children, she was also a little bit smaller. She was very cute, but they would speak to her like she was younger than them. And you had to always tell them, like, she's your age. Like, there was almost, they had a hard time understanding, and I think in a very, like, loving, sweet way, that she couldn't communicate didn't mean that she knew less or understood less. It was just there was something that was not being translated, or there was a way she couldn't express herself that they could express herself, and vice versa. And I think we lose sight of how hard it is, and, like, how much people work to get to a point where they can, like, if you drop me in anywhere right now
that
I don't speak the language, I would be at a loss, because I know what comes easily to me, and I know it doesn't. And I think that effort and that strength that people need to show, sometimes I think we value the wrong thing. But that definitely is a part of Miami. And when you and your sister, your younger sister,
older, she's my older sister.
You have your older sister. Yeah. Do you ever feel like there's any kind of, like, or you're all Miami girls?
There's one thing. She has a double last name on her birth certificate. So I'm like, I want the double last name.
No, you don't.
Okay, I hear you. And I'd be asking, since I was a kid, like, since I was way younger, I would ask my mom, like, what are all the last names of all the grandparents as far back as you can remember? And then that's what I say my name is all the time to my mom and my sister. I was like, my name.
Can you do your names? All your names?
It's like, I'm like, it's like Vivian, Azalia, San Román, Toalino, Otero, de Figueroa. So it's like a bunch of last names from a bunch of the grandparents. But it's a mix. It makes no sense. When I say it to my mom, she's like, you just mixed up so many, the order.
Because I used to do it. It was Ana Sofía Peláez El Casal, Oyarson Galindo Lizama.
Okay, yeah, you see, it's a
vibe. It's a vibe. But I do have my full my composite name. I don't know how you would describe it. It's Peláez El Casal on my
I only have Azalia.
Birth certificate. And it's almost like it pops its head up in the worst possible times, because it's your official name, but it's like in these kinds of very limited places. So, and I also feel like even like Ana Sofia, like even like the idea of having, and I don't think it's an ugly thing. I think it's something that can be really misunderstood. I think Americans, their instinct is to shorten your name.
Yeah.
It's the way that they show familiarity and warmth. And I think for Latinos, I think it's knowing all your names is the way that they show. It's a more intimate relationship. Like,
Yeah.
and also there are honestly like tens of Annas in my family. Like, so it's almost like, but I'm the only Ana Sofia. Like, there's, you know, you have
Were
to
you
kind
named after somebody? Like specifically?
I was named after my maternal grandmother.
Okay.
No, mentira. My paternal, my father's mother's, on his mother's side. So my sister was named after his paternal grandmother, and I was named after his maternal grandmother, his maternal mother.
I don't know. Cooler story than me. I'm named after a bank teller that they met here in America.
I love that. Who was the bank teller? Was it
like some chick named Vivian, and they were like, "Yeah, we like that."
Was it like Barnett Bank?
Which bank? I have no idea.
They didn't tell you which bank?
No, they didn't tell me which bank.
That's the story.
When someone helps you out, you remember that.
So
I always ask people that help me in any waiter at a store, what's your name? And then they're like, they say, I'm like, oh,
like,
that means a lot because that's my mom's name or that's my friend's name. You know, like you remember those people that helped you out. Yeah.
It is a bonding thing. Like
this lady must have helped them the fuck out. Yeah.
Or like the reverse. Like you're like, that name is dead to me. Like if somebody's like a terrible person, even if you love the name, you're like, no.
Yep.
So Vivian, and then what's your younger sister's name?
Older. You keep trying to make me.
You said you have a younger sister too.
No, I don't. No,
you only have an older sister.
And a cousin. It was the three of us. Yeah. Both of them are older. I'm the baby.
Okay.
I'm the baby. No, you're good. You're good. She's just Andrea. She doesn't have a middle name. It's just she has double last name, and I'm like, that's not fair.
Yeah. It's those things. I don't know. I think, to me, it's curious because I feel like I do think there's that tension, not tension in Miami, but something you experience in Miami, where I think your proximity to your family's country of origin is something that you're working towards. Like there's something almost like aspirational about it. Like, I don't know, or maybe that's just been my experience. Like,
no, that's definitely a lot of Latino people experience. Latina, yeah. Absolutely.
Like even I have cousins from Peru, I have cousins from Mexico, I have cousins from Spain. Like even our family, the ones who kind of had that experience that they grew up. There was that sense of like they had something, they recovered something that your family lost and didn't recover, or your family lost and then found something different. Like there's something, you know, a little bit, I don't know, you feel their proximity to your family that is different for you.
I've seen a lot of friends like try to create that for themselves, especially if they grew up here like me. Like, you know, I've gone to Peru maybe a handful of times, if that. Yeah, like a handful of times. But like, what is my relationship to Peru and my family over there is completely different than like my mom's or whatever. So I've seen friends like, you have to, and just people my age in general, you have to make a point to make a relationship with your culture, because if you don't, it'll just die off. It won't exist for your kids. It won't, like, my partner's also Peruvian. So we always like laugh. We're like, we do not care if this baby is born in Miami. This baby is Peruvian through and through. Yeah. Even though on paper, technically not, right? Because it's supposed to be where your parents from. And we were both born here, but I'm like, our baby is Peruvian.
Yeah. And I think I will say this about Miami. I think it allows for that.
Yeah.
Like it's hard. Look, I went to Cuba with my sister, and this drives me crazy because my sister's older. And when we were in Cuba, people would ask if I was visiting her, or they would ask her, they would look at us, both of us, and say like, oh, when did you leave? And they just assumed that I was born in the United States. And I was always like,
were you born in the United?
No, I was born here. But she was born here too. But like my sister's like la más cubana. Like it's just like,
that's not fair.
It's not fair. Like, so yeah, I there is that sense of like wanting to like embody or represent something that you love. And I mean,
my sister definitely claims she's more Peruvian because she was born over there. There's definitely that.
But that's also an older sister thing for them to just kind of like move the goalposts on you, to be like, oh, like it was different before you got here. You know?
Right. Oh, yeah. She's like, I made our mom a mom, It was 2 years, with
Yeah.
before you were born. My life was different. All these things.
Yeah.
She always like makes jokes like that.
My
I'm like,
sister tries that one too. Like Mother's Day, it's like my mother and my
I am the
sister. Like this is
right.
Mother's Day, and my sister's like, "But I made you," and I'm
Yep.
like, "Y'all can fight that
She's
out
the
with yourselves."
primogénita. I'm like, girl, whatever.
There
Girl.
is that, like, even like within our family, like, I don't know, I think all families probably have some version of this, but I do think Latino families are very hierarchical. Like, it's just ingrained in us.
Yeah.
Like even in my family, like, something's gonna go, if something's gonna get passed down, it's always like your first daughter, your first son. Like, there's
No,
nothing
my
for a
mom is
second
pretty.
child.
My mom is pretty like, I don't know. My mom is very even when it comes to that in that way. My sister,
Yeah.
me and my partner, like, will literally troll my sister and be like, yo, you're just my second mother for real. Like, you're
Yeah.
not really my sibling in that sense. But my mom is very like, no, we got to do things for both. We got to.
Is your
And my
mom is your mom an oldest?
my mom, no, my mom's a baby.
My
mom's
mom's
a
an oldest.
babe.
So it's like two oldest.
No, my mom is
So
a
they're
baby.
lawless. It's what they say it is.
No, my mom is, and my mom and me, my sister's not the creative one. So my mom and me like bond over that. And then my sister and her have like worked many different like jobs and all these things together. Like, they both worked at the same company for many years. So they have like work things that they share, all those. But like when it comes to being even, like, no, this is for baby and this is for Dre, it's very 50-50.
Okay. My mom does try. My mom does try, but it's like there is that imperative. Like, and also my family, like the oldest is always named after the.
Oh, yeah.
And my family didn't do that, but there's a lot of 1 and 2s. But
She was named after some uncle, I think passed away or something. I don't even remember the full story.
Yeah.
But some guy.
So-
Andres. I think Andres. Yeah.
I mean, your family's kind of like, that's a name.
Yep, that's the name.
So you're born and raised in Miami, and you're having this. So I knew you first for your work as in the Dream Defenders, and but then I think you've become equally known for Colors of Azalia. So, which came first, and how did you first become active in Miami? When did you first start trying to not just like exist in Miami, but really starting to think about how you wanted to change it?
So funny enough, the jewelry came first.
Really?
Yeah, jewelry.
Okay.
I started
I
making.
would not have thought that.
Yeah, the jewelry started in 2011. I was fresh out of high school. I was working. I had gotten in trouble in high school, and I went to North Miami Senior High. And my art teacher, caught me skipping, and he was like, "Go do extra credit at the museum down the street." I was like, "Museum? This is corny. I'm a high schooler. I think it's whack. I think it's corny."
Yeah.
And
Was
then
this Mocha?
It's Mocha. It's Mocha. So I make it to Mocha, and the lady that's there and has me do the extra credit, she sees that I have a little point and shoot. And at this point, I've had a point and shoot almost since 5th grade because of this like sense of like, my dad passed away when I was really young, and I didn't have a lot of pictures of him. And it was always like, why don't we have more? Like, he was a picture taker. He was
Yeah.
always behind the camera. Like, we should have pictures of everything, of everyone, of no matter what silly moment. So I always carried a camera with me. And I had a camera on me on that day, and she was like, "Oh, you should come back. We have photography classes." 3 years later, I literally went to class every single day for 3 years, never stopped going. Ended up, right when I graduated, she was like, "Oh, well, you can't take classes anymore because, you're 18, this and that." And I was like, "Damn, that sucks." She's like, "Do you want a job?" And I was like, "Do I want a job at my favorite place on earth? Absolutely." And at the same time, I was going to college, and I loved it. So she was basically the one that pushed me after 3 years of seeing me do photography, get, better at it, because it's based on obviously perspective, but get trained by multiple people like Noel Thiar, just like amazing photographers that have come out of Miami. She was like, "You should start pushing yourself to do something more." She started pushing me to like painting, drawing, and then she gave me one day jewelry stuff. She was the first person ever also introduced me to like the Tony Goldman primary projects, like the graffiti world, and I was like, graffiti? Mind you, this is like 2000, maybe 11 or 12. Wynwood is just getting built out. I'm parking over here by Enriqueta's when everything's like flat. I'm pulling up to I'm like, what is happening? Same time I'm developing the jewelry, but at that point I call it Jar Cloud. So my dad's name, Juan Azalia Rodolfo, I like flip it, and then Cloud, like as a cloud of just happiness, jewelry, whatever. I'm making jewelry, cool. And then in 2013 is when kind of my world shifts. I'm still going to college at the time. At that point, I'm working MoCA, and I had gotten recommended for Coral Gables Museum. So I'm part of their curatorial team over there doing their exhibits. And Rifa passes away, or Rifa gets murdered, I should say, by Miami Beach police.
Can you tell us who Rifa?
Yeah. So Israel Rifa Hernandez was one of my best friends, Colombian graffiti artist here in Miami, and fucking brilliant alumni from Miami Beach Senior High, and yeah, just like an amazing artist. And he was killed by Miami Beach police, the North Beach Miami Beach police, and yeah, it completely changed my like perspective on. I think it was just like it was like boom, it was like a bomb drop. It was insane. It was like a whole like stop break to my whole life, because growing up, especially in a block in North Miami, on the PA at any break, at any spring break, summer break, winter break, anything, be safe, this and that, da da da. And then you always hear, oh, Fulanito de tal passed away in a drive-by. Fulanito passed away in an overdose. Fulanito passed away, riding ATV. Fulanito passed away in a gun-related incident. And growing up, it had become so normal to say, fuck the police. Like, I was like, okay, yeah, I'm growing up around, like, people that look like me, act like me, have the same values as me. We're all agreeing that the police are not it. I'm like, okay, bet. And there was already a sense of, like, in Latino and Black neighborhoods, there is already a sense of abolition, whether they name it that or not. Like, people are going to look after each other and not call the cops, and that's just period. So I'm just like, someone got killed. One of my friends got killed on the beach. Like, nothing is supposed to happen on the beach. Like, this happened on the beach on 71st, like 7 blocks from my house. I'm like, what? And it didn't compute. I was like, this is crazy. So I'll never forget. I found out that morning. I'm in shock. And I'm like, nah, this can't be real. I'm 20 years old at the time. And I'm like, this can't be real. Like, let me just keep it pushing, go to work, and just, work is my sanctuary. I'm working in a museum with homies, making art, I was one of the lead for the summer program. So I'm like, I get to be with the kids today. I'm like, let me just go vibe over there. And I go to work. I let them know, this happened and I'm not sure. And they're like, oh yeah, I seen it on the news. And we're in the lobby, and to this day, like, there's such a my boss at the time that I used to call my mocha mom. She told me, well, look what he was doing, he deserved to die. And I was like, what? I'm 20 years old. I'm like, you're the person that's introduced me to graffiti. You're the person that's introduced me to artists that are now designing and getting paid to mold and create Wynwood what it was becoming back then. Panther Coffee was not Panther Coffee. It was like a furniture store, and they barely had a little ventanita. I'm like, what? Like, I was like, this is so confusing. You literally introduced me to this whole other art world, pushed me out of photography to like expand my perspective on art, appreciate different art, tickets on tickets year after year to Basel things where there's graffiti. I'm like, this is so, I quit within 2 minutes. I was like, I can't stay here. And I remember I was in shock. I was like, I gotta go. I can't stay here. I think we were a couple weeks, maybe like a week or 2 weeks out from finishing out the program. I was like, I'm gone. I was like, consider this my 2 weeks, but I'm not coming back for real. Like, I can't. And I remember that's when it like started, like harassment of like from the cops to like family, to my grandma, to friends, to me, to friends of Rifa who had witnessed it that were undocumented at the time. And it just became like this spiral of like, what do we actually do? I now have no job. Mm-hmm. And thankfully I was living with my mother at the time, but I'm like, if I would, like, I'm just like, okay, let me figure things out. Let me take it easy. Let me finish school. I end up trying to like finish college that semester. It was very difficult to finish. And then I meet Dream Defenders. Dream Defenders comes to a meeting at what used to be called PAX, and then was Sidebar, and then now was like a parking lot in Brickell. And they were like, Philip Agnew is there, Jonelle, Steve, Sharika, Sierra and Ahmed were probably there at the time too. And I remember Phil walks out, back when you had to put coins in La Maquinita in downtown. And Phil walks out and he tells me, and I'm in a whirlwind, right? Like my life has been flipped. I'm confused. We're starting to have meetings to organize protest. I'm like, what is happening? Like this is, and I'm a baby. This is 11 years ago. I'm a baby, so I'm not well versed. I don't understand nothing. I don't understand legal terms. What's about to happen? The family at the time was like in the process of getting their, I want to say their green card or their citizenship paper, and I'm just like, what is about to happen? And Phil walks outside with me and he tells me, I verbatim, I don't remember exactly what he told me, but he was basically like, we can do whatever you want. And that's for 11 years, that has stuck with me because they were coming off of the high of like, they had just done the 30-day takeover at the Capitol for Trayvon Martin. Like they had been developing this like group of young people that were like also trying to do something. And I'm like, Trayvon Martin, I'm like, yeah, I remember that. He had connections to Carroll City. I had homies in Carroll City. I'm like, yeah, I remember that. Like people have been posting about that, but I hadn't it hadn't clicked. Like this is happening everywhere. And social media wasn't really booming like that. Stories didn't exist. It was just hard posts. Carousels didn't even exist. It was just one post as a hard post. So I'm like, Dream Defenders. So I was like, okay. And then I didn't have a job at the time. So I end up rocking out with them for literally that first full year. I get a fellowship the following year, so 2014, to do like voter engagement and stuff and just like do a listening survey of like what people in the community want. And they're like, Viv, where should we go? And I'm like, Opalaka. Like we should that's where all my homies are at. We should go to Opalaka. And there's, in the in-between protests and we organize protests. We organize community meetings. We're organizing things with Community Justice Project before they had a name, with Alana and Mina and Chuck. So we're organizing lawyers. We're organizing just movement people like Mohammed and Sabash, who now work for other organizations as well. Kimberly Gonzalez, Natalia Jaramillo, that works for like all these people. And I'm like, why do all these people care? I'm like, this shit must be bigger than just REFA. And then it starts clicking. And I was like, all right, I want to do this.
I mean, and this was at the beginning. This was also from what you described, and I'm so sorry that you had this experience and that sense of that loss of someone who you loved and you cared about. And then you have to apply it and you have to see how you can make something change so that someone else doesn't have that loss, someone else doesn't have that experience. Where do you see, when you think about everything you learned through this process, like, how do you talk to young people now who are coming into this world, who are coming into that, having that first sense of, what can be different, what can be better? You work with, can you tell me a little bit about the groups that you work with right now? Because I think you're doing some really inspiring work.
So, super fast forward to in 2020, really 2017 with Hurricane Irma, 2018 with Parkland's school shooting. We're like, with Dream Defenders. I've been a member this whole time. I've been teaching this whole, and still doing photography this whole time. And Dream Defenders is like, we need to do something that's an alternative to police. We need an ambulance to be responding to people's health crises, mental health crises more quickly in Black and Latino neighborhoods. And I'm like, yes to all of it. Like, alternatives to police should exist everywhere. And we start dropping the seeds around, like, what should it look like for art healing, for therapy, for all the things. In 2020, I get hired. And they're like, help build this project up. Of course, we all know 2020 was pandemic year. So we had to shift a little bit. But now for the last at least 3-4 years, it's been, or 3.5-ish years, it's been consistent in working with the youth, like you said. And we do gun violence prevention and also gun violence intervention. So we work with a lot of youth in Liberty City, predominantly Liberty City. Over the years, has been a group we worked with in Overtown, Touching Miami with Love. But it's really just to talk to youth around coping with your emotions, de-escalation, mediation. What are the things that you need when you're not feeling too great, when you might be depressed, anxious, we talk openly around just what those emotions could also lead to when it comes to, our young people are facing a lot, and there's like this like young people are idolizing death more, especially young people, especially the youth that we're working with, because there's different things. I've had kids tell me they attend more funerals than birthdays. The way that we as in Latino and Black people, people of color, celebrate death is also like in a really big way. And there's a lot of like resources that are almost like moved organically or through organizations to celebrate someone when they pass away. The balloon release, the vigil. Sometimes folks have like the trucks, and while all of that is beautiful and needed, and how I remember when Rifa passed away, we did murals, we did a bunch of different stuff. There is not that same energy when a young person's alive, so they're almost seeing it as like the only way I'm really gonna be celebrated is when I pass away.
Yeah.
Is when I'm about that life and hold that gun and do all that, this and that, to then be actually honored. They're not thinking about the consequences. They're not thinking about I may or may not get shot and end up in jail or prison. I may or may not get shot and impact my family. They're not thinking about none of that. They're thinking this is how people are held to a certain regard. I want that respect. I want that like for people to look at them and be like, just respect. Respect is a very big thing. So I think working with our kids, it's been a lot of different conversations around like, are you actively participating? Are you witnessing? Are you impacted by? Are you, what's like your family's like like the full situation, And there's been a lot of different conversations I've had, honestly, over the last couple of years, whether it's like at the time, the immediate need is like, yo, I just need food. And if like I had food and I had like maybe like a bus card, I wouldn't have to go get somebody, or miss, I just need a little bit of money. So I'm like, okay, come to our summer program and we'll pay you. And there's people that are actively paying young people to commit crimes, including shootings, that it's like, if you are, and adults, adults that are actively doing that. This is a thing. It's not special to Miami. This is a thing that's happening across the country, probably across the world, and we need to convince, and I say convince wholeheartedly, convince our young people that they are worth more than that.
Yeah.
And not just more worth than that price tag, but worth more than just like what's going to be the consequence if you actually get caught up. So I think the conversations have had a full range, like I said. It's been food. It's been what's, the dynamic with the parents. Are the parents full-time working to make ends meet? Is it loneliness and just wanting to be a part of something? Sometimes our young people have like small, tight-knit families where some of the families are in different parts of the country, so they don't have a lot of people here in Miami. So just wanting to be a part of something, but it's just like what you choose to be a part of can have consequences. So it's a lot of different things. And there's also like the preventative side. We've had a lot of wins. We've had a lot of successful conversations. We've had, we've had people attempt to commit suicide. And thankfully they're on the other side of that now and working to like heal themselves and talk through why some of those emotions even came up. But even some of those like initial flags around our young people with when depression starts creeping up, when anxiety starts creeping up, like being able to like check that with them, not just like as adults talk about it and be like, well, now we can label this person. Like, no. Like this person's actually a human. Like if this person passes away because of XYZ, that's not like we should care. Like we're in relationship with these young people and as dream defenders, especially when we talk about abolition, when we talk about creating safety for not just our young people, but everyone, it includes everyone. Like there's this motto from these people we learn a lot from, that it's like you have to put the public in public safety. It's not just the cops that need to be in charge of it. It's not just the mayor or like commissioners. It's not just, no, it needs to be everybody. So it's like people need to actively, the families, the parents, the young people, the business owners all need to be a part of the solution and a part of what I'm doing specifically in Dream Defenders is working specifically with the youth. And it's been so dope. It's been so dope because we do everything. We do our healing things, we do life skill things, we do different conversations around just like their emotions, what they actually want. We're working towards what they actually want to see in their communities to keep it like safer, what their vision of safety is. We've brought them everything. We've tried to bring them everything, different partnerships, different giveaway, things related to sneakers. Miami is really big for gold, so we've had them do mold up for golds. Like, if this is really what you want to do, your aspiration should not be to oh, you want to become a security guard.
Yeah.
Or just because that's no. Like, you see this and you want to do this, like, we'll go teach you. His name was Vivian. We had him come do and teach the young people how to mold up for gold. So we've tried to bring them also what they want to see.
About how old do you, like, what kind of, like, where do you feel like the interventions are the most, can have the most impact?
Honestly, middle school. Yeah, middle school.
It's a hard time.
Yeah.
Like, that's like a really, I can see why that would make the most sense, because it's like everything's happening. That's almost, it can feel like their situation can be beyond them. I think everything that they're feeling in their bodies, it can feel beyond them. It's all this. It's a kind of transformational time. So it doesn't surprise me that would be the moment where you need to be present for young people.
Yeah. So middle school is the main group. Middle school is also the harder group because so much is happening. We work with a lot of high schoolers though, and it's also it can be a hit or miss depending on how much they've developed their values and just like point of view of the world. But I'm always like, it's such a sweet spot to work with that age group, that 12-ish to 18, 13 to 18. Like, it's so good.
Do you feel that do you have a strong sense of working with mostly, what's the gender divide in, because I
I'll
feel
say
like
50-50.
it's 50-50?
Yeah, 50-50. Oh, don't put it past my girls. They'll get into some shit. I knew what I was when I was a young kid. Yeah, it's very 50-50. And it's like we're meeting them also where they're at. So we're going into schools. Next year, we're hoping to do 5 to 6 assemblies in different schools in Debris City and Overtown. But yeah, it's very 50-50. And we also have our young people coming to us for different programming, coming to junior offender meetings, doing some of the political education that I did early, some of that like repetitiveness. But yeah, it's very 50-50. It's both of them, both gen. And, we have a lot of, I won't even say both of them. We have queer youth as well. So everyone fits under the umbrella of all the things.
No, it's hard to even define it, because I do feel like in middle school especially, there's a different, and like you said, like young girls can get into some get into some trouble. But to me, I feel like you wish that there was more, people had more information, young men had more information on how to deal with their emotions in a way that they feel that it's okay. And I think like we do, that's that sense that there's an access point that I feel like we don't necessarily give them that grace of like, this is okay. It's okay to feel vulnerable. It's okay to be like, there's all these things that you appreciate that you had that maybe, young men aren't given that kind of access, especially I think in Black and Latino communities that can be so heavily like,
Yeah. I think folks are really trying to give young people that. I think we, even myself sometimes, we need to give them more credit, because their generation talks about mental health, talks about queer, the intersection of queer and Black, very openly, very accepting in ways that my generation, you were gay? No. Oh, you going through a mental thing? Oh, you crazy. Oh, you psycho. No. Now they talk about, like, on all the kids and all the different schools I've interacted with, Overtown, Liberty City, even North Miami, like all the different programs are talking about it actively. I think there is a push now, and even with just like, Philip Agnew has an organization called Black Men Build. They've been actively trying to create space, not only for young people, but just also for grown adults. And I see that across different groups around the country, just like a push for just like, cis men to talk about, it's okay to like literally the world doesn't want you to cry, because then if you cry, you are gonna like grow and develop to be a better person. But the world doesn't want to see that. The world wants you to like be this like I talk about this with my partner all the time, especially with like him and his homies and just like intergenerationists of like the grandfather, just like men in general and especially in Latino households, like they are just seen in society as a number to provide for the family. And that is it. You don't get space to process your emotions. You don't get space to process your tiredness. You don't get space to process any of your trauma. It's like you are a part of what's making the thing continue to be shitty, for lack of a better term. Like, it's like we should not be living and breathing just to have a job.
Yeah.
But that's what they want, and especially that's what they want from men. So it's like, why would they allow you to talk about you feeling sad today? That's going to make you start thinking about, why are you sad? You getting paid X amount of money an hour, and your boss maybe have a Benz or what, you know, like, of course they don't want men processing their emotions, because I feel like if women and men were to get together and be like, yo, let's turn up, like, it would be, and the same goes for Latino and Black people. Like, if there were to be a interchange, collaboration as far as like, forget language, forget this, forget that, like, we are in the same boat. I feel like groups like Miami Worker Center do a good job of that. Power You with their young people do a good job of that. Like, there is, if more groups did that, come on.
I mean, I don't want to pivot too hard, but I do want to name it, because I do think it's interesting, like, that I didn't know that you started from a creative space, because I do think it's missing. And I think when we think about what's, you know, where we see the country moving forward, I do think, like, in the arts, in creativity, in community, there's something that cannot be, you can't put limitations on creativity and expression. And I think it's going to be such an important avenue to keep the conversation alive when other avenues close. I think that's always a kind of direction that people should be moving in, to kind of keep a values-driven community conversation, cultural conversation happening. What is creativity, or what is being able to engage in a creative field, or being able to share that with young people? Because I don't think I've worked in creative fields that I don't think I didn't know existed when I was in high school. Nobody tells you the same way they could tell you to become a lawyer or accountant or a nurse or a fireman or a policeman. Like, there's always a path, but there's no clear path when you want to go into a creative field, when you want to go into an artistic field. How do you have that conversation with very young people now? Do they see it as an avenue for them, or is that something that's can kind of add to the work that you're doing?
Yeah, I think it's been a little bit of trial and error. Even like mixing with like my personal brand and Dream Defender work. We've done like mentorship programs through Colors of Azalia and Dream Defenders, where we've connected our young people to artistic mentors that have helped them develop, you know, kind of what they want to do when it comes to just like being an artist and what that actually looks like. And to the smallest thing of like having a resume, having a cover letter, having examples of your work, like some of those things, or creating work so you can have examples of your work. And I think some of those conversations have just been figuring out also what our young people want to become, because our young people want to become all a bunch of stuff, and like you said, they're not being told that they actually can be. Like, it's like a far-fetched idea for them. So we've had people, specifically I've partnered a lot with Zabo. He's one of the co-owners of Roots. Shout out to Zabo and Danny. Danny passed away last year he passed away. He was one of the co-owners of Roots, but both of them, and Zabo continues to do this in his work. He's a vice principal here in Overtown, and he really does a good job of like social entrepreneurship. Like, if you're gonna develop an idea, especially an idea that like mixes art and social justice, you need to be giving back to the community. So just partnering with people like him to talk to youth, we've done so many experiences where we've brought them to, we've taken them to go see Lonnie Johnson's exhibits. We just took them to Go Gallery a couple months in September to go see an exhibit by this person named Desi. Just showing them that like this is literally a job This is literally, we had one of our young people, he wanted to be a chef really bad. And that's how he found his like creativity. So he ended up getting connected to Sean's Cooking, and he now has a job with them. And he's still in high school, but I'm like,
Wow.
he's 17. Yeah, he's 17 or 16 now. And he, I see him all the time still. I go into school all the time, and he's like, Miss, I just did this event with them, Miss. So it's just really been just trial and error. And I think for me, culture has been such a big part of Dream Defenders, of like why we've been able to have some of the like the conversations you're not supposed to have with people, have some of the like uncomfortable conversations, reach masses and masses of people, has all been culture, has all been due to, we've had a mixtape, we've done I think we've done a phenomenal job over years of graphic design and just like explaining things in like regular words versus like these like super fancy words. Like when I first joined, I'm like, what are all these fancy words? And then they were like, okay, this and that. I'm like, yeah, we need to write it like that because people are not going to get it otherwise. And I think Dream Defenders if anything, has like inspired me to do that through the jewelry and through my work, like even my work with the young people. Like, all right, they did this for me. We didn't even have this whole program of resources and gun violence prevention, all these things, because we also support families that are impacted by police shootings. So it's just like, we didn't even have that. So my old boss, she casually said in a meeting one time, she's like, Viv was the first client before we actually, and I'm like, oh damn, y'all definitely trialed and errored with me because y'all gave me funeral support, all these different things, legal support. So it's just been trial and error, asking the young people what they want to see, asking them what they want to become, and bringing that to them, honestly. And it's a mix of the political education from Dream Defenders, the life skills, and just like some of that entrepreneurship, and then the art healing that we bring them through just different artists, through just different practices. We've had the honor of having somatics coach on our team, of having healers like the person that runs and organizes Givers Revival, Wakumi. She's like supported a lot of our programming. So yeah, it's just been trial and error and just like bringing it to them.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to ask you our lightning round of questions from Miami. So we ask everyone this. It's just kind of for them to go on record. Yeah. It's just kind of like where this is not, I shouldn't say on record. It's more of like a snapshot of how you're feeling about Miami in this moment, which is November 18th. We're not holding you to any of this because Miami changes. What is Miami doing right?
What is Miami?
We try to start on a positive note because we love. I think Miami loves to complain because I think, but it's with love. But we do love it, so we want to start with the positive.
I think Miami, it just has a lot of. It allows people to just make their own lane. It really allows for people. Like I've seen people in the last 4 or 5 years, 10 years, develop whatever it is that they want to develop. I got a homegirl. She's really into basketball. She's also an artist. She got to, figured out a grant, did her thing. She now just this past week or last weekend was painting Legion Park's basketball court with her artwork. Yeah. I got people like me that I'm just like, yo, I'm really passionate about youth. And I still want to do jewelry and I want to do political jewelry. People have been super receptive to it. I've seen people, it's created. I've seen one of my homies, Akaya, he's like the creator of this party called Masisi, and it's like a queer trans party, and they've done fundraisers. They've had some of those like conversations out loud that people like don't want to hear, and it's like, hell yeah, like that's powerful. One of my homegirls, Valentina, she's organized so many different protests and just different activations to support everything that's happening in Palestine, and it's just like, it's really, no matter where you stand on like anything, whether it's political, not political, like Miami will give you the room to organize enough people and it'll be a thing. It'll be your favorite place. You'll be surrounded by some people that you've never met before. People will come. Build it and they'll come. Yeah.
There's an ayatu quality of Miami. I'm like, ayatu?
Yeah.
Like, if you want to try it.
Figure it out. Fake it till you make it.
This one you have to keep short because what is Miami doing wrong?
What is Miami doing wrong? A lot. Infrastructure, roads, elections, who we're putting in positions of power, how we're spreading out the money, how much money we're giving to cops. A lot. We're doing a lot wrong. Public housing.
Yeah. Well, thank God you're doing some work.
Baby Jesus, we're doing a lot wrong. Arresting people for being homeless. That's the newest. That's the
and
newest wrong
that is
thing we did.
escalating. I think that's something that people should be watching as we kind of see
Yep.
what these new laws, how they're going to be implemented.
Yep. That's Florida though. That's not Miami, but yeah.
Yeah. What is your most nostalgic Miami memory?
I don't know. I have pretty nostalgic Miami memories all the time. Like I have experiences.
It's a nostalgic city.
Yeah,
everything about Miami is nostalgic.
The most nostalgic memory. Probably last Basel. My partner and I, we went to a party at the Soho here in Wynwood, and we got to see Trick and Trina perform, and we were like, "Yeah, this is a vibe. This is cool. This is like our childhood music."
Nice. What do you miss that Miami used to have?
Oof. How about all the school buildings I went to school with? None of my school buildings exist. For some weird reason, they've all gotten demolished and they have new buildings now.
Wow.
But definitely the Flea. Also, the Flea on 79th. Definitely went there a lot growing up. Yeah, the Flea.
If you were to leave Miami, and please don't, what would you miss the most?
The food.
I think we have great food too.
Yeah, the food. You could go anywhere in this country and you're not going to get Peruvian food, Cuban food, Caribbean food, Haitian food, Trini food.
Yeah.
Yeah, the food here is stupid.
I say this to people and I don't think they believe me. I lived in New York for over 20 years. Grew up in Miami, lived in New York for a long time.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
And New York is such a food city, and people are always
but not really.
It's a food city, and but I always say but Miami has all the food I like. It's it's all the food that you can't get it the same in New York, but it's a concentration of the things that I really just my favorites. What do you want Miami to look like in 20 years?
Better infrastructure, more free public transportation. I feel people really take advantage of that when that's just accessible, and less people living in poverty. Because I don't want us to just arrest people and just put them away just because they're homeless. I want it to be yo, what do you need? What do you need? What do you need? They kind of street response does a good job of doing that. They do street runs every Saturday. They actually check on people medically, emotionally, all the things. Just more programs like that to people shouldn't be living in poverty. We got these empty ass sky rises. Let's go. Let's fill them up.
If you want everything that's coming to Miami to benefit the people in Miami.
Yeah.
And to feel like everyone's kind of
and the people that been here, not the new people.
I say that and I think that, but it's also there'll be old Miami people complaining soon enough too. I'm put in a few years and suddenly you're gonna be there's gonna be some guy that came from Austin, Texas 2 months ago is gonna be esta ventanita es la mejor. It's gonna be if Miami was a song, what would it be? This is an extra credit.
If Miami was a song, Trick Daddy, Back in the Days.
All right.
That's one of my favorite songs.
All right. Well, yeah, this is all we have time for, Vivian. I feel like I can talk to you forever.
Yeah, this was good. Thank you for having me.
Loved having you here. So grateful. I don't know that I've ever had a conversation with you, even if it's passing and if there's events going on. You have so many things going on that you're not immediately thinking of how you can help someone, how you can make something better for someone.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that you're always doing that for our city and how much you love it.
I can't take all the credit. I'm Dream Defender.
No, it's not about
I'm a voice of just I'm a what people did for me. I'm just trying to pay it forward.
Yeah. No, you're a part of some really great things, but I think you're a part. You're always doing what you can.
Yeah.
In your life, and you're just so open to everything and everyone. So
thank you.
I love what you bring to our city, and thank you for coming. And this is our last episode for the season. I guess for the year. It's been a year this week. So, we're just, please follow us at Miami Freedom Project. Follow Vivian at Colors of Azalia. Follow the work that's being happening at Dream Defenders, Miami Dream Defenders. And, it's really, we love our city. We love, what's possible here and who's doing the work here. And so we definitely will, please stay in touch with us, and we'll be, hopefully joining you again soon. And again, still trying to keep things moving forward in a way that we can get to that city in 20 years that we can all feel really good about how we got here and who's here with us and what's possible next. So thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. That's it.